far south you want to go?
Get south of this damn thing. I don't want to die.
Golf ball to baseball, side field. Look out, hang on, hang on!
Welcome to Surviving Severe Weather Along the Front Range. Hi, I'm Storm Chaser Roger Hill. I spend my spring and summers every year from March through the early fall chasing severe storms from the Dakotas all the way down to Texas. In my storm chasing career, I have seen nearly 400 tornadoes, been in over a dozen hurricanes and typhoons, and have witnessed thousands and thousands of severe storms, many of them which occur in the state of Colorado. Believe it or not, the Front Range of Colorado through the eastern plains experienced quite a significant amount of severe storms, including tornadoes, hailstorms, a lot of high winds, flash floods, and lightnings. And that's what we're going to talk about today. To kind of set the stage for all of our subjects, we are going to look at something that's called the Denver Convergence Vorticity Zone. This is a boundary that will typically form somewhere over the metro area in the spring and summer months and is a prolific storm-producing machine. If you see our map here, Cherry Creek Reservoir is in the middle of the screen. Oftentimes in the spring and summer, winds will come out of the west down out of the mountains and meet warm, moist winds coming out of the southeast. This boundary that forms up and down the Front Range is called the Denver Convergence Vorticity Zone. And what this does is it actually helps to generate the lift needed to get severe thunderstorms to form. What we see here is a ground shot of a developing thunderstorm along the Denver Convergence Vorticity Zone. As air is lifted up from the converging winds into the base of this thunderstorm, it'll cause that rising air to accelerate. Often along this boundary, you have areas where the winds are spinning, such as the resemblance of a dust devil. And if you see right in the middle of our photo here, there's even a tornado that has formed underneath this particular thunderstorm. This is a classic example of how this boundary actually works, complete with our tornado. One thing that's very interesting in Colorado is the fact that we have the ability to get supercell tornadoes and non-supercell tornadoes. Not many states in the United States get both types of tornadoes. But to understand this, we need to illustrate what the differences are between the two types. A non-supercell tornado, or as it's commonly referred to as a landspout, basically is a smaller, weaker type of a tornado that forms from the surface of the earth up through the cloud base. A supercell tornado, on the other hand, is a much larger tornado and longer lasting tornado and forms from the cloud base down. The majority of tornadoes that we get along the Front Range in Colorado are the landspout or non-supercell type of tornadoes. However, we are not immune to receiving stronger tornadoes as a supercell type. What I'd like to talk about now is the telltale signs of how a tornado forms and basically what to look for in the atmosphere. When you see a dark cloud base in the sky that oftentimes will have clouds underneath it that are attaching itself to the base, they may form what's called a wall cloud. And that wall cloud can often be a precursor to a tornado formation. Something else that we will look for is rotation in the storm. And that may appear as a round or circular base to the storm, or even the cloud looking like it's spiraling up into the sky. In Colorado, we often do not get a funnel cloud that extends all the way down to the ground because in the state of Colorado, we have less humidity than our neighboring states, such as Oklahoma and Kansas, and therefore that funnel cloud may not be seen all the way down to the ground. As long as we have a dirt or debris swirl on the ground, we do have a legitimate tornado. And it's always important to remember that every tornado is dangerous. What you see on the screen now is a landspout type of a tornado. This tornado occurred in eastern Arapahoe County back in 2004 and actually produced F1 to F2 damage. And basically what that means is that the winds were blowing as much as 100 to 150 miles an hour. This tornado does not look that violent, it doesn't look that strong, but indeed it was a fairly powerful tornado. This storm actually tore trees up out of the ground and destroyed a few barns and structures. This is a classic rope tornado that we often will see in the state of Colorado too. These tornadoes are long and skinny and they're really pretty to look at, but as with every tornado, they are quite dangerous. This type of tornado is also a landspout tornado, and it actually occurred just east of Aurora near the Watkins and Bennett areas back in 2006. This tornado actually had a debris cloud almost 300 yards wide, but fortunately it stayed out in the middle of the open plains and didn't cause any damage. But it's not uncommon along the Denver Convergence vorticity zone to get multiple types of these tornadoes occurring at the same time. This is typically how one of these tornadoes will form, as almost like a dust devil appearance with tumbleweeds and things flying in the air. And then as that column of air gets stretched into the cloud base, the tornado will strengthen, and as you can see here, has turned into be quite a large tornado. This tornado, unfortunately, tore down a bunch of fence posts and power lines and power poles, and even killed a few farm animals. It's like with every tornado, they're quite dangerous. So even though they are considered our weaker, more short-lived type tornado than a supercell tornado, it is also quite dangerous. This is just a beautiful shot here, in my opinion, of a classic landspout that occurred out on the eastern plains east of Lyman. This tornado was actually almost stationary and persisted for nearly 10 to 15 minutes. If you look close here, you can even see the column of air spinning as it's being stretched out and pulled into the cloud base. All that you see here is basically dirt and debris that was lifted up off the ground and is being pulled up toward the base of this developing thunderstorm. A sight to behold for sure. The other type of tornado that I mentioned was the supercell tornado. Supercell tornadoes are much more common on the central and southern plains than they are in the Colorado area. However, occasionally we do get supercell tornadoes even as far west as the I-25 corridor. Supercell tornadoes can last for 45 minutes or an hour and travel tens of miles. These type of tornadoes can pack winds of 200, 250 miles an hour. And as you can see here, sometimes they can be obscured in rain and hail. It doesn't mean that they're any less severe, but sometimes the visibility is just not good enough to be able to see them real clear. Colorado gets these types of tornadoes every year, and sometimes you can get multiple types of these tornadoes each year. Colorado actually ranks 8th in the United States on the frequency of tornadoes, and this particular shot that you see right here is a very violent F3 tornado that was on the ground for almost 45 minutes and traveled for over 30 miles. These types of tornadoes are quite rare to see this large in Colorado. However, they do occur. The next thing that I would like to do is to give you the opportunity to hear what a tornado sounds like. Let's take a listen. What I'd like to do now is talk about some of the basic rules for tornado safety. One of the first and foremost things to remember is to seek shelter in the lowest floor or interior room of your home. If you don't have a basement, then an interior room such as a closet or even a bathroom will provide some protection. If you're in your car, do not get out of that car and climb up underneath an overpass. The overpass is a very dangerous place to take shelter, as tornadic winds will accelerate as they're pushed through that overpass, and you'd have a significant chance of getting sucked out of that overpass. Also, if you're in your car, you can move at right angles from the tornado or lie flat in the ditch. It's important to also understand that what usually causes a lot of damage in a tornado is in fact the debris that's flying in the air. Tornadoes can be quite scenic and they can be quite destructive, but in my opinion, tornadoes are beautiful. After witnessing almost 400 tornadoes in my career, I find every tornado that I see as exciting and as pretty as the very first one that I've ever laid my eyes on. What you see here is a tornado that occurred in South Dakota back in 2002, and it was one of the prettiest tornadoes that I've ever witnessed, with the sun setting behind it. If you look at this, you can see a very large debris cloud at the ground. This tornado was causing significant damage at the time that it was filmed, but in my opinion is just absolutely gorgeous to look at. Another severe weather force that we have to deal with up and down the Front Range is hailstorms. Colorado is not immune to hailstorms. What I'd like to do is look at some of the facts that are associated with hailstorms. Believe it or not, Colorado ranks as the #1 state in the United States for hailstorms. We get more hail in this state than any other state in the country. Hail is usually smaller than a quarter, but believe it or not, it can grow to the size of cantaloupes. The largest hailstone ever recorded occurred in the town of Aurora, Nebraska, believe it or not, and it was 17 inches in circumference and weighed almost 2.5 pounds. Hail larger than 1 inch in diameter can injure or even kill you, and it's not uncommon to see animals get significantly injured or even killed by hail. What we're going to do now is we're going to look at some different hailstorms that I've witnessed over the years and how to recognize what a hail sky looks like. You can see here in this video clip that there's an intense core of hail that is coming right at me. Now we have hailstones that are bouncing off the ground anywhere from quarter size all the way up to almost baseball size. And it's important to note that when hail hits the ground, if it shatters, the chances of it doing significant damage to yourself or an automobile or your property is much smaller than when the hail that hits the ground that bounces back up in the air. Because the hail that bounces back up in the air is harder, it has the opportunity to create more damage and more force when it hits the ground. You can see here hail falling out in this field that actually was almost the size of baseballs and softballs. This particular hailstorm actually did a lot of damage to my car, destroyed my windshield and side mirrors and so forth. This particular clip was taken from a probe that was on the ground where a tornado had just gone through and blew down fencing as this cow was walking down the road. We always have to remember that if we have hail, to make sure that we take care of our animals. You can see here hail up to baseball and softball size is bouncing off the ground, again showing quite a destructive force, and it's even stripping the leaves and branches off of trees as the hail is falling. This particular hailstorm lasted for a long time. The large hail lasted for nearly 20 minutes. This particular hailstorm, I happen to have my camera rolling, and you can see a hailstone hit the windshield and shatter the windshield. This is damage that is typical in a vehicle if you're driving down the road and happen to get caught in hail that is large. It'll usually take a hailstone about the size of a golf ball to be able to crack a windshield, or even golf ball to baseball to be able to actually knock a side window out. You can see the damage that was caused to my van here from one hailstorm, where there's just dents all over the hood and the roof. I have shattered window here. This hail occurred in a storm that produced softball size hail, and that largest stone right in the middle is nearly 4 inches in diameter. When you get a lot of hail that falls, as the storm leaves and the air calms down, you'll actually get what's called hail fog that forms along the ground. And this occurs when there is a significant amount of cold ice on the ground and warmer, more moist air up above. You can see here where I'm holding hail in my hand and scooping it up off the ground. It's not uncommon in Colorado to get hail that'll pile up 6 inches to a foot deep. Unfortunately, the poor farmers that were in the path of this hailstorm lost all of their crops. This is actually hay and corn and sunflowers that were just totally demolished by the force of this hailstorm. And the hail in this storm was no larger than about a quarter to a golf ball size. So as we can see, hail does a lot of damage. And in the state of Colorado, if you remember back in 1990, there was a very significant hailstorm that hit the Denver metro area and caused over $600 million damage to Denver alone. That hailstorm to date still ranks as the second most costliest hailstorm to ever strike the United States. What I'd like to do now is talk about hail safety and look at some of the things that we need to do if you happen to be caught in the middle of a hailstorm. Stay indoors if possible. Don't go outside, because remember, hail larger than a quarter can injure you, and larger than golf ball size can kill you. Stay in your vehicle. Don't take the chance of getting out of your car and trying to run inside to seek shelter. You're generally pretty safe in your vehicle. Your windshield will crack, but it generally will not come crashing in upon you. However, a side window may break and may fall in on you. If you happen to lose a window, just get in the middle of your car to stay out of harm's way. Find covered shelter if possible, but don't block traffic under a highway overpass, because there may be other cars or emergency vehicles that are trying to get through to help others in the case of a significant hailstorm or a tornado. What I'd like to do now is move on and talk about lightning. Lightning can occur with any thunderstorm. It doesn't have to be a severe thunderstorm. It doesn't have to be a supercell. It just has to be a thunderstorm. Lightning, in my opinion, is one of the most dangerous aspects of a storm. I can look at a thunderstorm and I can tell you where there's going to be a lot of hail. I can tell you where there's going to be heavy rain and where there's going to be a tornado. But the one thing that you never know for sure is where a bolt of lightning is going to strike. And whether that bolt of lightning is going to be the first bolt of lightning that comes out of the sky without warning, or whether it's the 100th bolt of lightning that occurs. You just never know. What I'd like to do now is look at some lightning facts. Lightning can go from the cloud to the ground or the ground up. Earlier in the springtime, it is more common for lightning to come from the ground and go to the cloud than it is from the cloud to come to the ground. Lightning can strike the same place twice. And also, lightning can strike even if the storm is several miles away. Remember that the way a storm is charged with electricity, a bolt of lightning can strike as much as 10 or 15 miles away from any thunderstorm. So the important thing to remember is that if you can hear thunder, you're close enough to get struck by lightning. What I'd like to do now is look at some different lightning footage that I've taken over the years. And the first thing that you see here is actually a supercell thunderstorm that was producing just copious amounts of intercloud lightning. Intercloud lightning is lightning that basically flashes within the cloud. This video is not sped up. This video actually shows how frequent the lightning was occurring in the storm. This particular thunderstorm developed at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the electrification and the lightning in the storm went on all the way till almost midnight, providing quite a spectacle for over numerous hours. We could just sit out there and just watch the storm and just watch the lightning just flash around the sky. The little flashes that you see, the little bolts within the cloud, are called anvil zits. And they just basically show the electrification that is contained within the anvil of a thunderstorm. What you see here is a severe thunderstorm that occurred in western Kansas. And notice the really, really intense strikes of lightning, how they're not pulsing. They're just one real brilliant flash. These are usually positive discharges from the thunderstorm, and they actually contain the most electricity and are the most dangerous to get yourself into. If one of these were to hit you, you could be charged with voltage as much as 50 million volts of electricity, which of course is much, much hotter than the surface of the sun. This particular thunderstorm occurred in the Oklahoma Panhandle back in the early 2000s, and notice how the lightning is just spidering across the anvil, or spidering across the sky of this supercell thunderstorm. As the thunderstorm reaches the mature stage and starts to decay, you get less frequent cloud to ground or ground to cloud lightning strikes, and you get more of these type of electrical discharges, which are called anvil crawlers. And anvil crawlers are a photographer or a videographer's dream. And it's real interesting to note that sometimes if you get these anvil crawlers that go flashing over the top of you, you can almost feel the tingle in your skin and in your hair as these particular discharges will go across the sky. What I'd like to do now is talk about lightning safety, some of the do's and don'ts associated with lightning. Seek shelter indoors. If at all possible, do not be the tallest object if you happen to be outside. Because remember, a bolt of lightning will typically take the shortest route from the cloud to the ground, or the ground to the cloud. Get out of water and off of a bicycle or motorcycle, because water is a natural conductor for electricity. And if you're on a bicycle or a motorcycle, you may end up being the tallest object around. Plus, the tires of a bicycle or motorcycle will conduct electricity. So it's important to make sure that you get out of water or off a bike or a motorcycle. Other important things to make sure is to do not seek shelter under trees. Remember, a tree, of course, is a much taller object than anything else around you, and lightning will have a tendency to hit the tree and bounce off and then hit the ground. And if you happen to be that tallest point right underneath that tree, there is a risk of getting a direct strike from a lightning bolt that hits that tree. Also, stay away from metal objects. Metal, of course, is a wonderful conductor for electricity. If you're outside and you happen to be around a fence, like when I'm out chasing storms, I always make sure I stay away from fence lines, because lightning can travel down fences when it strikes the ground, and it can jump from that fence to you. Also, don't huddle in groups. The National Weather Service recommends that you keep at least 15 feet between you and anybody else that is in a group. One final point about lightning is, remember, if you're outside and you feel your skin tingle or your hair stand on end, you may be about to get struck by lightning. The National Weather Service recommends that you crouch down on your feet and put your hands over your head, making yourself the smallest target that you possibly can to minimize the risk of getting struck by a bolt of lightning. What I'd like to do now is move on and talk about the one thing that probably puts more fear in me than any other aspect of severe weather, and that's flash flooding. With a bolt of lightning, you never know where a bolt of lightning is going to strike. With a flash flood, you just don't know how deep that water is. And it's never recommended to drive through water or to walk through water that is flowing swiftly as a result of strong, severe thunderstorm rains. What I'd like to do is look at some of the facts that are associated with flash flooding in the state of Colorado. Remember, flash flooding is the #1 killer in all of the United States from all severe weather activity. Believe it or not, more than lightning, more than hailstorms, more than tornadoes, or more than hurricanes. Flash flooding is responsible for the highest number of fatalities. In Colorado, it can occur anytime from March through September, but it also can occur in any month of the year. It doesn't take a lot of rainfall to get a flash flooding situation to occur, and it can happen in less than an hour after the rains begin from a severe thunderstorm. One thing to remember is that a severe thunderstorm can generate as much as 3 or 4 inches of rain in less than an hour's time. What I'd like to do now is look at some video that I shot associated with some flash flooding. This particular footage was taken in southeastern Colorado near Lamar. We had a severe thunderstorm that actually dumped over 3 inches of rain in about a 45-minute time. And you can see how the water just has a tendency to drain out of the higher points in the terrain and fill the gullies and ravines. And eventually this normally dry creek bed fills with so much water that it runs across the road. The bad thing is if you're trying to drive through this or trying to get across this, you don't know for sure how deep that water is. You don't know for sure if some of that highway has been washed away by the intense rainfall and the strong current that's associated with the flash flood. You may be driving through this and all of a sudden the pavement is gone from where the water has just eroded the pavement. And you wouldn't even know it, because the water will flow smoothly across any object as long as the water just continues to pile up. One other important thing to remember is that if you have power lines that are down in water, don't drive or walk through it, because that electrical charge can still be contained within that water. What we'd like to do now is look at some flash flood safety tips. Important things to remember is to do not drive a vehicle through flooded streets. It doesn't make any difference how deep you think that water is. That water may be a lot deeper than you think. Flowing water only 6 inches deep can knock you off your feet. Doesn't seem like a lot of water, but the force that water has on any object is significantly more than wind does. So it doesn't take a whole lot of water to knock you down. If you're in a flash flooding situation, especially if you're in the mountains or in areas where you may be in a valley or in a dry creek bed, is to get out of that flash flood scenario by seeking the higher ground. Get into the higher terrain so that you're not in the path of significant flooding. I mean, we all remember the Big Thompson. Watch for downed power lines again, and stay out of water that may be associated with them, so that you don't have that electric current that is flowing through that water, and then risk the possibility of getting electrocuted from those downed power lines. A final topic that I would like to talk about is that of straight line winds. All of us up and down the Front Range of Colorado are not immune to strong thunderstorm downdraft winds. Those winds can blow as much as 60, 70, 80 miles an hour or more and cause significant damage. Let's take a look at some of the facts that are associated with strong straight line winds. The downdraft of a severe thunderstorm can generate winds in excess of 100 miles an hour. Those winds can destroy structures and create blinding dirt storms. What I'd like to do now is let you listen to what a strong downdraft from a thunderstorm sounds like as it hits the ground.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness gracious, we're getting hit with probably 60 to 80 mile an hour winds here. Taking it, man. We are taking it.
Another major problem with downdraft winds is blowing dirt. As you can see in this video, the winds are blowing dirt along the ground, and they're actually reducing visibility tremendously. If you were driving in a situation like this and encountered blinding dirt, slow down gradually. Don't slam on your brakes and come to a complete stop, because the person behind you may not do the same thing that you are. Another problem with straight line winds is fires. Dry lightning can generate fires along the ground, and these fires, when fueled by strong winds, can spread rapidly through the grasslands and prairie lands across the plains. It's not uncommon to see these fires cover hundreds and hundreds of acres in a very short period of time. And again, if you encounter smoke from fires, that can also reduce your visibility while you're driving. Straight line winds can cause a significant amount of damage, not only to the grassland, but also to structures that they encounter. This particular shot was taken along the Colorado-Kansas border near a small town airport that actually destroyed this airport. The winds here were actually gusting in excess of 90 miles an hour, and as you can see, they flattened many of the structures. What I'd like to do is take a look at some of the safety features that we need to do when we encounter straight line winds. The first thing to do is to make sure that you seek shelter from blowing rocks, pebbles, and other debris. That blowing material can blow windows out in a car. And again, also slow down gradually, as abrupt stops can cause traffic pileups and serious accidents. Well, I hope I've given you some information that you find useful today. If this happened to spark the storm chasing need in you, remember that storm chasing is dangerous. Contact the local National Weather Service office, who offers free spotter training just about any time during the year. Also, you can check out my website at www.stormchase.net, where you can find lots of different photos and tons of videos. Thank you, and keep an eye to the sky.